Hi, everyone. I am Carrie Thompson, and I am grateful to you all for coming to our first traveling town hall. I am co-hosting tonight with Council Member Isabel Piedmont-Smith, who is your council member here in District 1. Isabel, do you want to say anything before I launch us in? Or, okay.
Just glad to see you here tonight. Hopefully we'll get a few more people trickling in, and it's nice to be here at Summit Elementary. This is actually my first time here, I must admit, since my district just changed to include this particular neighborhood, but nice to see you all.
I'm really grateful to Councilmember Piedmont-Smith. She shows up at everything and is really engaged. So if you have not engaged with her yet, I know you'll see her around your district a lot, and she and I are working really well together in this new administration. What we're doing tonight is a traveling town hall, and it's a little bit of an experiment. So we're going to try it the way we're doing it tonight and see if it works well or not. And we have, Katz is here, and there is a microphone here. So I'm going to give you a few sort of high-level updates. But what I've been doing in listening sessions since nearly 2 years ago is taking questions that you want to hear about. And I have sort of anticipated, we didn't get many questions submitted ahead of time, but I've sort of anticipated, based on what's going on around District 1, what you might like to talk about are things related to planning and housing. And so I have Interim Director Jackie Scanlon of the Planning Department here. Jackie may be relieved that we have appointed a permanent director, David Hiddle, who will be here starting April 1st. So this is the last time we'll put you in the hot seat that I can foresee. And just named today, Anna Killian Hansen is now our Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development. So Anna's here with us today. So I want to give you a few high-level updates, and then I would love to take your questions, and we'll field them appropriately and have a discussion if time allows. We can have more of a collaborative discussion. So first, some exciting news today. Today, we had our first all-female fire crew in the history of Bloomington working at station number 3. It is pretty awesome. It's applause-worthy and worthy of making that history during Women's History Month. So I'm really thrilled with that news. And we have several other things going on in the community that you're probably tracking. We have the CIB now is moving forward more steadily with our convention center progress. We've all signed an interlocal. All parties have signed that interlocal now. And so you'll be seeing more progress with the convention center coming up. Closer to District 1, we have been receiving input about some things related to Hopewell, including a bike path on 2nd Street. And so we're happy to discuss that some coming up, and also the improvements being made at Building and Trades Park. So we took lots of input, and those will go into the planning process. I did not invite Tim Street to come, our Director of Parks, but would be happy to field any questions I can and get Tim to respond in the future if you have questions more related to parks. So with that, I am going to invite you to come to the microphone and tell me if you would like an update or have a specific question that you would like us to answer for you.
I'm a short person, so I don't know how to...
It's picking you up pretty well there.
Can you hear? Okay. I live in McDowell Gardens. My name is Elizabeth Cox Ash. I am concerned about the rezone along First Street where Haven is now, Indiana Center for Recovery. They've torn down, it's zoned residential right now. And they have torn down all of the affordable houses that were rented and owned at that time. And now at the very end of the street, they're wanting to build a new facility. I am concerned about this. I was concerned when they first came to town in 2018 that this was not appropriate to be having something like this near residential area, and now they're asking for a rezone. Mind you, Haven owns the former hospital site down in Bedford. So if they needed a group home or something like that, they could easily put it there and shuttle people down there instead of building and having a rezone. We need more affordable housing, and this area was affordable housing. There are already the lots, everything, the utilities are right there. They could rebuild houses there for affordable housing, but no, they want a rezone. So I'm concerned on the status.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. We need more affordable housing. Jackie, can you give us an update on where we are with that rezone?
Great, thanks. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's a great question. And we've been hearing that from some in McDowell, especially. So it should be appearing at Plan Commission at our next Plan Commission hearing, which will be on April 15th. So the week after the eclipse. And so they requested to continue through March and go to April. So as far as we know, that's when it will appear. And we will likely give a final recommendation at that hearing to Plan Commission. So for those who don't know, Plan Commission will then make a recommendation to council. So for a rezone, there are a number of findings that we look at. The main one is, does this meet the comprehensive plan? What we said in the first hearing was we don't think that it does meet the comprehensive plan because in a rezone, you're requesting to rezone to a specific district. It's not that we're making a decision or judgment about the use, it's that we have to look at the district and all of the things a district could bring in. And the district that they've chosen doesn't seem to match the comprehensive plan, which has a plan for residential. So it's likely that we'll recommend denial on that, and then it'll be up to the council what they want to do. I do want to say we obviously need to think of all of the people in the community, right? We know that we do also need to find room for supportive housing. We just think in this particular instance that the district that they're requesting isn't compatible with what the comprehensive plan is asking for in that area.
Okay, thank you.
And I've already gone on record to oppose the rezone for those very reasons that Jackie mentioned, that I think the use and the services that Indiana Center for Recovery provides are important to our community. But this is a place that was purposefully zoned for residential housing, and that's what should go there.
Other topics you'd like us to talk about?
Hi, I'm Mayor Thompson. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name's Bill Henderson. I live in Broadview. I live on Bryant Street. And I have behind where I live, which is adjacent to the Beeline Trail, is a large undeveloped parcel. And as you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but a lot of homeless encampments have taken up there. And about a year and a half ago, there was one, and there was 3. Then there was 6, there was 9. Now there is 9 right now. And I'm concerned, well, first of all, I'm not here to say, solve this problem here, drop everything and solve this problem. It's the most important thing on the city's agenda. I realize this is part of a systemic problem. And so, and I respect the need to do this in an orderly way. And I will go along with an orderly process to deal with this homeless situation largely in the city. I'm getting involved, and the issue That said, I would like some assurances that at some particular point in time, those of us that live around this perimeter of this property, now that the city has clamped down on public encampments, when that no longer happens, it's logical that the overflow would go into private encampments. And the city has had a policy, they've said, the police department said this is like pushing water, and you inject these people, and they're back on there in a short time later. And I realize that there's really no good solution to do this, to fix this immediately. But as somebody who lives along this perimeter, I have 9 people living in here. Next year, is it going to be 12, 20? Because more people could put encampments in there, and I need some assurances that the goal is, because it's a housing violation, it's a private trespass violation. I know that the owner of the property will like this remedied, and I know you're in negotiations with them, but I'm pleading for some assurance that the long-term or even medium-term is not going to be, this is the overflow. This is where they're going to go. They're going to go on this particular property, because I'm telling you, I feel a lot less safe than I used to. My daughter, who's here tonight, will no longer walk the Beeline Trail. And so, anyway, I've said enough.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And I met your daughter at another meeting that we held specifically to talk about the unhoused and safety issues relating there. You're right, there's no perfect solution. And I want to assure you, I am working very hard on at least a good solution. And we're not going to get to perfect. And whatever it is that I do, some people are going to be unhappy with it. But the fact of the matter is, the people living in tents are unsafe, and people who are living close to some of these encampments are feeling unsafe as well. And so what we have then is an equation where basically nobody is feeling safe. And I am committed to finding the path of as much dignity as possible to ensure that we can commit to people that we have a roof for people to sleep under at night, and that when we move a camp, my goal would be, when we have to move it, we can say, here is a place that you can sleep, and it has supportive services. We don't have enough of that right now, which is part of the problem. And I don't know how long it's going to take until we have enough, but I am working with the providers, and I'm working with Heading Home, which is the umbrella organization that helps coordinate provision of shelter and permanent supportive housing. So it's called a Housing First model. And in the interim, my goal is to create safety. And so I know you've been in touch with the city, and I do, I hope that we have provided you with some resources. Broadview, HAND has announced that one of our cleanup grants will be going to Broadview this spring. I intend to be out there helping to clean the neighborhood, and to invite people who have been living around the neighborhood to participate as well. And my hope is that we may not solve this immediately, but we want to incrementally make it better. Yeah. Hi, Keith.
In the face of things that don't work, I feel a little guilty talking about art. I walked here from near Hopscotch, and for the most part it was okay along the Beeline, and then it's not so much fun. It's not like walking in Venice or in small places in Europe.
Canals are on your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, actually.
They are, okay.
Yeah, along the Clear Creek from First Street to Dodds, it has a lot of parking lots next to it. And I thought that would be a perfect place for cafes and along there. It's like I live in a dream world. I'm not sure.
We appreciate that about you.
I made a long list, and Jack helped me to and I'm making places, like making, one of the things you said about Bloomington is making it a place, I want it to be a place that's known throughout the world as one of the best places to live in the world.
Yes.
And so I made lists of things that I think, they're all related to art.
That's great. That helps make us a great place.
I like it. Let's see, third places. That's something that I've been talking to different people about, creating those. And a lot of these ideas that I have a long list. I'm not going to read my list of things. And I would like to work with different neighborhoods to create neighborhood parties, neighborhood festivals, art in their neighborhoods. I just think that's important. And I don't know why on earth I'm so nutty about it and want to do parades and things. But that's been my thing.
Because you're gifted at it. So for those of you who don't know, Keith does this in his neighborhood already. He creates a third place on Friday nights for his neighbors, and it's an incredible gathering. And so having your gifts at work, helping other neighborhoods, I think could be really helpful. And I'm not going to put her on the spot to respond, but Angela is here with us tonight, and she works with all of our neighborhoods. And I would love it if you two connect so that we can be sure to tap Keith's gifts in helping us do that.
So, okay, and whether you want it or not, I printed up a whole list of things rather than talking them.
Watch your scarf. Your scarf is about to. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to add that I think Hopewell is a great opportunity to have public space and a safe space, and preferably with very few cars, to have a space to gather and to just get to know one's neighbors and enjoy some green space, as well as all the housing opportunities in that development. So I'm going to definitely keep my eyes on that project as it moves forward and make sure that we have a lot of public space to gather, especially for pedestrians to gather in Hopewell.
Yeah, and one of the things, all the pictures that I see about Hopewell, there's a lot of people in them, and people are a critical part of where people want to go. Because if it's an empty space, it's like, well, why would I want to go there? But if there's people already there, then it's like inviting. And I was like, I want to hang out with other people, even if they're a little weird, like me.
Especially if they're a little weird.
I live in Rockport Hills, just down the hill over here, and there's still drainage problems. I mean, at one point, they had talked about building a kind of a pond in the area, and I know it was back when Cruzanne was there, and I think there was money for it, and it got caught up in that group of people, those contractors from Bedford that just made off with all the money. So they never really did anything about it. There's one small retaining pond kind of west of where you go back towards RCA Park, but people are still having problems just north of Countryside Lane there. And it's because we're on a hill. This is called Summit Hill, and then it's all downhill from here to there, and all that water's got to go somewhere. So at some point, we're going to have to get bulldozers in there and actually put a real pond or lake, and not just because it's next to my house, but which would be nice. But water's got to go somewhere when it rains a lot. So I don't know. I know Jacqueline Gutzel talked to you a little bit about it, but I've been hearing it for years. So I don't know if we can find a solution to that or what. So thanks.
Yeah, actually, I'm meeting with Tim Street from Parks and Kat Zager from CBU tomorrow morning, along with Jackie Gunsel, who you mentioned, to walk the park and the creek and see if we can at least get the debris cleared up. I mean, I've been talking to CBU about this for years, and it's kind of a public versus private thing, but yes, we need to do something long term.
I hate to hog the microphone, but I have another issue, and this is with Hopewell. There is a house that had been a former ambulance site on 610 West 1st Street, and there's the thought that it could be moved. They've been in negotiations with Bloomington Restorations, and by the way, I am Bloomington Restorations' unpaid bookkeeper and treasurer. The concern is what can be done for an affordable house project. And I know BRI would love to get this house if we could somehow work things out, either on the site with a small lot where it could be moved, or in place, which would be even better. So this could be an affordable house. McDowell Gardens has tons of affordable housing that BRI has done. We've also done facade grants. And affordable housing is really to my heart. I would love to see more of it. So if somehow the city could work things out one way or another, I know the Redevelopment Commission is involved with this, and nothing has really been decided yet. But if somehow you could put your weight in and have this project work, this would be fantastic. I was looking around to see if any of the neighbors on West Wiley were here, because they were really concerned about this. They would like to see this as an affordable house. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you so much. So as I have already stated this evening, affordable housing is critical to our present and to our future. We have to have ways that people can afford to live in Bloomington if they work here, and Hopewell is really our best opportunity to get a significant number of people to live close to the city center, where they can potentially walk and bike to work, or have a very short transit, hopefully by bus, and have all of the services that they need really close at hand. So I have set up a task force. Jane Cooper-Smith, our Director of Economic and Sustainable Development, is heading that task force up to look at the master plan at Hopewell, and before we proceed any further, to make sure that we are getting as close to those original goals as we possibly can with what we do at Hopewell. So that house and many other pieces are under consideration in this planning process for Hopewell.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I live in the Bryant Park neighborhood, and one of, I think, Bloomington's better features are the parks and trails. And it makes us great for raising families and living here. However, like other people, I no longer use the parts of the trails that are less inhabited for safety reasons. I am concerned at how Bryant Park is changing. I see a lot more trash. I see a lot more articles of clothing. And so my question to you is, what strategies are you already entertaining, or what ideas do you have to keep Bryant Park, and for that matter, all parks, clean and safe? I know that they're public settings, and we cannot limit access to the park to any particular population, but I do think that all people need to feel safe and need to be able to enjoy all public settings, and especially the parks. I don't see much people, I don't see as many people using the park as I would normally see, and I see clusters of carts with clothing and people staying in areas of the park for longer periods of time. And I am also wondering, are there surveys being considered to inquire how many of us are not accessing the parks or these public spaces?
So our Parks Department and other city personnel do patrol the parks with regularity and do work to keep them clean. And I always say, you know, to anybody who's using the park, I hope that we all are great neighbors, and if you walk by a piece of trash and can pick it up, that you do. Of course, encourage people to use the trash receptacles that are provided. If there are critical issues of safety in a park and an immediate danger, of course, you would want to call the police department. This is actually the first I've heard of real safety concerns in Bryant Park. That's a park that I frequent, for obvious reasons, I haven't been there in the last couple months, but we can certainly have someone go out and check the status at Bryant Park if there's some changing environment there. We do. It is a public park, so all people in Bloomington can use all of our parks.
Teal Strabbing. I've been in Broadview for 10 years. Would like to talk about Switchyard Park. Love it. We go there a lot, and we can walk downtown from where we are. My concern is just safety as far as crossing the street. So I live on Rockport Road, and when my husband and I walk to the park, that section, there's like maybe one crosswalk out of the 4 different intersections. And it doesn't really work for people who are walking on the west side of the street. So when you get onto Rogers also, especially when people are walking on Rogers on the side where the substation is and crossing over to the park, it's not really safe crossing there, especially like at 5 o'clock when people are out, and on the weekends it's very busy. So I would love to see some sort of like crosswalk or some traffic calming, something like maybe on Walnut. Just one of my concerns. So.
Yeah, it's great feedback. It's not feedback I've heard before, but I'm sure others probably have. It is a safety issue I have experienced, both by pedestrian and cycling, trying to maneuver around that area. Jackie, are there any plans currently for
I could get back to you on that, Teal. I don't know of one offhand. Like, I don't think that's part of a currently funded project, but I do think it's something that is. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. As the interim, I know my side really well, and the other side, people are sometimes having to remind me about things. These are over on the table. For those of you who haven't seen, there is a project that we are undertaking called Safe Streets for All. And one of the things is an interactive map. So you can go to the website, and then you are making comments about being a road user anywhere in town and how you feel there. So any type of user, driver, walker, biker, cyclist, wheeler. And so you can just mark on the map and put in whatever comments you'd like. And so then we will aggregate all that information. And there's also a survey. You can skip the survey and just do the maps. Some people don't. The survey takes a little longer, but as much information as you can give is helpful for us because the point of Safe Streets for All is to have an action plan to help make the streets safer for everyone. We have actually, the first week of April is called Safety Week, and we will have consultants here and a number of events going on around town, and that information is also on the table as well. So yes, it would be a perfect example of something to put there so we could have that. Thank you.
Could I ask one more question while I'm up here as well? Sorry. So like I mentioned, I live on Rockport, but I have a side street that runs along mine, and it happens to be one of the new connecting streets to Osage Place, which love. Glad that it's there, but I am concerned that once that neighborhood starts to get really full, that my side street being one of the entrances to it, especially so close off of Rogers, is going to get a lot more busier. And currently, it's a dead-end road, but there is barely enough room. Like, if you pass another car, you have to pull over to the side. 2 cars cannot pass. So just concerned in the future as that neighborhood grows, what our street is going to look like and the kind of traffic that's coming through. So that was all.
What's the name of the smaller street?
So Duncan is the one that runs alongside my property. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My name's Anita Nethery. I live on Countryside here. I would like to request, I apologize I came in late. I don't know if this was already spoken of or not, but I would request the traffic humps, instead of what we have now. If we could have something that's similar on, I believe it's West Adams, in between Mother Hubbard's Cupboard and Catalent. They're much smoother, so if you go over them at a decent speed, you're not jostled like you are with these, and it goes all the way across so that the motorcycles and little scooters can't zip on along down the center. So that's my request. Thank you.
You know, I've been studying speed humps a lot in the last couple months. It's amazing how much there is to a speed hump or a speed cushion. Thank you for that input.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jan Sorby. You can hear me? Okay. And I'm in Bryant Park. And I don't know, Carrie, if you are familiar with the lack of sidewalks in Bryant Park or not. Washington, Lincoln have complete connectivity. So does Hillside. Those are the only ones. We have 2 other streets that have partial connectivity. And anyway, the interior of Bryant Park neighborhood is very rutted. It's a vicious cycle. The asphalt washes away with all the torrent rain that comes through the gutters there. We don't have a drain sewer hardly anywhere in the neighborhood. And there's no sidewalks, and there's a ton. We're like 65%, 70% rental, and we have a ton of students that walk. Green Acres is another area that really needs sidewalks. And I don't know the plans for the city that they have for sidewalks for that area. We get overlooked a lot. And Washington and Lincoln, if you walk down toward Hillside, are incredibly broken. Crumbling away. And so anyway, I'd love to hear what's going on with sidewalk plans and if we're on your radar or not, that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Can either of you speak to that? We may have to, yeah. Jan, we can see about the sidewalk plans through Public Works and circle back with you.
Okay, I can
Yeah.
send you photos too if you'd like to give photos of Lincoln and Washington.
That'd be great.
All right,
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you for coming here too, by the way.
Yeah, it's my delight. I think these are fun. Come on, more questions. Statements, anything. Polly's coming.
Hi there. I am Polly Tarracone. I live pretty close to Mother Hubbard's Cupboard. Been there almost 5 years. love living there. I wish I could buy the, the apartment I live in. Excuse me. So one thing that's been on my mind and the minds of a lot of local advocates for sustainable land use and transportation is just what to expect from this administration. There's been, I know we're looking at the new updates to the transportation plan. There's a lot of us that just kind of don't know what to expect. I'm a huge fan of the traffic calming and greenways program. I know that's come under a lot of scrutiny in the last year and change. So I think we're definitely curious to learn a little bit about like what the orientation is to the current transportation plan. On land use and housing especially, that's been obviously another hot button issue for Bloomington. I can't stress enough the kind of housing crunch that a lot of us as students have been under. I've been in Bloomington over 10 years, almost 11 years. Most of that time as a student, but a lot of that time as a full-time worker. Thankfully, I've found a good home for that time, but I feel how disconnected I have been from the struggle, and I hear it from my cohort, and I hear it from my classmates. And I know there's a lot of work going into establishing Hopewell. The plans for Sudbury are very, very exciting. One thing that I wish there was a little bit more of, especially in District 1, is a little bit more mixed use, especially regarding destinations for fresh food. Thankfully, Mother Hubbard's Cupboard's right there, but I think we could definitely use some more options, especially if Sudbury goes in, because there's a lot of new and relatively more dense housing going in, and not as many food options to match. Even little things like a nice little corner cafe, small grocery, little things like that I think can go a really long way for these new and developing neighborhoods. Last thing I really wanted to bring up was with regard to the recovery center that's still up in the air. I spent a number of years working full-time in social services and can speak firsthand to the kind of shortage of services there are available, and how significantly that affects the lives of children who are unable to come home to a safe and stable home when there is not enough services for their caregivers to access. And I recognize this is an issue far bigger than what Bloomington itself alone can solve, but it is not excused from a responsibility of doing its part. So if it is not aligned with the comprehensive plan, I get it. I know the need for housing is crucial, but I would urge leaders to really think creatively about how we can make that center work. And last a couple of things I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry, there were just a couple, trying to keep track of all my thoughts here. I think building enough housing is crucial to actually making housing more affordable, semi-regardless of whether it's affordable or market rate. There's a direct correlation with rates of housing affordability and homelessness, where roughly for every $100 increase of area median rents, there is about a 9% increase in the rates of homelessness. And I think that's been kind of evident in the way we move around Bloomington recently, with the housing affordability starting to shrink and increase in local homeless population. Last thing on the piece of housing is I work at Cardinal Spirits. It has not been immune from the struggles that small businesses have faced since the pandemic, and it gets very frustrating to see we're surrounded by some really wonderful housing, being in McDowell Gardens, great neighborhood, but then you go 1 or 2 blocks over and it's this colossal storage facility. And it gets frustrating when, Cardinal Spirits is struggling to see this prime location taken up by people's junk, or things, excuse me. So I think one thing, if we really want our small businesses to thrive, we have to surround them with dense housing. And I hope to see that strategy demonstrated by the new administration and by the new council as well. So I know that was a lot.
Polly. Yeah. So mixed use development, dense housing to support local businesses, access to fresh food, and transportation plan? And the recovery center, yeah. So you've hit on core components of a thriving community, perhaps. Let me just say that Polly reminded me on the way in that he actually was one of the service providers to one of our foster children. And we need people like Polly to be able to live in our community, right? To help us make everything work. And so this is a good testament to needing some housing affordability. Anna may want to speak to this more. What our community needs really is the full spectrum of housing. We were asked, Anna was actually asked, not me, to go talk to the Multi-Faith Alliance about what they could do about housing. And there's, we do need to create some more housing. We also need to preserve the affordable units that we already have and look for ways to keep them affordable. So knocking something down and building something new frequently makes it much less affordable. However, that's not always true. Sometimes it costs a lot more money to bring a house up to code than to start fresh. So there's practicality in everything. And in order to make the mixed use work, you need enough people that are going to support those businesses. And because the businesses can't just locate and hope that a grocery store, which actually is really expensive, especially with fresh food, can survive. And so that kind of stuff is market driven, unless it's subsidized in some way. I'll just make a note about the transportation plan. The transportation plan, a lot of thought went into that transportation plan. And when we talk about multimodal transportation, we really need to mean multimodal. And what that means to me is that we need to have great places to bike. We also need to have great places to walk and make that safe. And sometimes if you are really intentional about getting the bikes to go fast, it becomes less safe even to walk there. And so we just have to be really intentional about where we want cars to be, where we want bikes to be, and where pedestrians, and make sure pretty much everywhere pedestrians can get where they want to go safely. There are people with mobility issues and who are not on bus lines who can't take public transit and can't bike or walk. And so as your mayor, my priority is to make sure that everybody can get to where they need to go safely. And I think we also need some conformity about how drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists are operating in each of these places. So we have bike lanes that work in different ways. Cars sometimes don't know what to do. Pedestrians don't know how to cross them. Even as a cyclist who ordinarily would ride her bike to work a lot, I sometimes don't even know what to do. So we need some instruction or to make things really obvious. And so being successful with multimodal transportation is kind of close to rocket science at this point. Be patient. We have some great teams that know a lot about these things, and we are iterating our way into a truly multimodal community.
I don't know if maybe Jackie can speak to this, but one part of the transportation plan that is underway is an evaluation of the Walnut Street and College Street pair, the corridor, which is in places not safe for drivers, for pedestrians, or for bicyclists in different spots. So I think that slowing speeds would be good for the businesses along that corridor and would be better for all the users. So I don't know, Jackie, if you can speak to what the status of that is?
Great, thanks. So a steering committee has been meeting about that project. So the looking at that corridor from 17th down into District 1 and seeing if there are ways to improve that to make it safer for all users. So at this point, because of the timeline of having a new administration and all of the things that come along with that, The steering committee, I think, met last month or so, and so what we're working on internally, just in the administration, is kind of how to go forward with that project, what to do with the information, that was gleaned from that committee, and where we're going with that. So I'm sure you'll see more about that in the near future.
No, I think you covered it pretty well, but I mean, as far as affordable housing goes, there's a great need. I recognize it. I've worked in real estate for over 20 years, and I see what's needed in Bloomington. There's a number of infill lots that we need to look at, highest and best use. We need to preserve a number of price points because you can't just build what we need. People need to be able to move up and out into other price points. So I am aware. I've taken a deep dive into our housing studies, trying to look at what makes the most sense, looked at the comprehensive plan, and then we will be doing a new consolidated plan as well, and hopefully help identify our formulated next moves. So I am aware, and I'm glad to work on this problem and come up with some solutions creatively for our community.
One of the housing pieces that people often don't think about are people who own homes that maybe they have their family has moved out of, and they're very large for them now. And we even hear from those folks that if they wanted to move into a smaller place to make that available, the mortgage rates aren't great right now, so they're staying put. So it's a very complicated puzzle of housing that we're working with at this moment, and really at all price points, sizes, et cetera, there's need in Bloomington.
I just wanted to very shortly acknowledge the substance use disorder problems in our community, and the drugs that are out there are much more stronger and much more deadly, and use of them really changes people's brain chemistry, and it's very, very difficult in our community right now, and I think it's really approached a point of a public health emergency. And I see this in the context of the county's efforts to create a new criminal justice complex, and that a lot of people who end up involved in our criminal justice system are affected by not just substance use disorder, but also other mental health problems. And so we need to look upstream at what causes people to get involved in the jail system and the justice system to begin with. And those are things I hope the city and the county can work together on to provide more treatment options.
Hi, everyone. I'm Josefa, and I work for the Office of the Mayor. First, I want to say there's a sign-up sheet that's going around if you want to go ahead and sign up, and if you can pass it around so that we can have your contact information and then disseminate more information as needed. Earlier today, as I was in the office, I got a phone call from a community member who is not able to be here in person, but wanted to be heard. And so I took her information, just her comment and question for the mayor. And she says that she's not able to be here in person. She heard of needles being found behind Charles Elementary on High Street near the creek playground area. She reached out to the person that found the needle and said that she called the police, and the police didn't care. They have not heard a response from the school either. The person who found the needles picked up the needles herself since the police response was not proactive. She says that the city needs to know about this, and she's not happy with the police lack of response. Her question is, how does Mayor Thompson recommend it? What does the mayor recommend in this situation to be? How can this be handled and prevent this from happening?
So if you find needles, there are safe ways to pick them up, and we can make that information available. as was just stated, we are in a situation where we really have a public health issue at hand with the drug use. And it is going to take a broad community approach to solve this, to help people that are in crisis, and to help keep people safe, keep each other safe. And so all of us doing our part is part of that, and I want you to know that I am concerned with it. I have been convening meetings not just about housing provision, but also related to our justice system and mental health care provision. Bloomington Health Foundation is going to take the lead in providing some more overarching strategy around community mental health improvement tied to substance use as well. And our county health department has convened a group that's meeting about that. So I'll be joining them to make sure that the city's on board. This is such a multifaceted challenge that touches so many social services, but also really if your life hasn't been touched by it personally already, it probably will be. And so if you want to get connected with an agency that you can volunteer your time and help, we can help connect you. If you have a gift to offer the community to help connect people, like Keith talked about, that's part of the upstream work that needs to happen, because working upstream means strong relationships and strong social networks that help keep us afloat, that we can count on. And there's really no underestimating the power of a community that's closely connected. And we lost some of that during COVID, but we're getting it back, and we really can use all hands on deck to help us get connected, stay connected, and understand that we're all pulling for a better Bloomington.
Me again. This is my third issue. Instead of saying all three issues, which were on three different topics, I thought I'd come up 3 times. I understand the CIB is already convened with the interlocal agreement for the convention center. I am speaking about the voter building, the old Napa building. I have been doing early voting and working on that since 2012. And I have been through 2 other locations, and I'll tell you, that building is about the most perfect building we could have. I would hate to see it torn down for parking lot. That is perfect for the unhoused to come on the buses, walk across the street, and vote so they can be represented. It is also about as perfect as it can be for anyone to come in. There is parking there, which in some of the other locations, parking wasn't available. There's plenty of room on the inside, so those who are handicapped, we have special places for them. The important thing of the voting is to let everyone vote if they can, any way possible. Whatever is done with the approval of the convention center, I hope you keep the vote center there, and do not tear that down, because that is, this is about the best that can be.
Thank you, and thank you for your work at early voting. It really makes voting so much more accessible to so many people. If I'm not mistaken, that's a county-owned building.
I realize that.
And so the county will be making decisions about that. But I agree, it's pretty accessible and great to be right across from that bus station.
Good evening, all. I'm Jack Baker from McDowell Gardens. A couple of questions that I'll ask in a moment. My concern is Hopewell. I've been involved with it to some extent for the last few years. Not so much anymore. But my concern, and I hope you'll take this to heart, I'm of two minds about the project. First of all, I want to see it go. I want to see something happen there. I think it's an important thing. My concern is that it's going to be another market rate project, lacking affordability, lacking community. In my mind, multi-story buildings, condos, and high density do not add community. Maybe next door down the hall, but not outside into the overall community, and that concerns me about Hopewell. And I've said this before, that I just have the worry that we're going to have another market rate project that is really, even though it's touted as being greenways and nice walking areas, and that's all wonderful, but the basis of it appears to be market rate housing. That's not any different from any other market rate housing that we have in Bloomington. So those that have money can buy, can rent. The affordability aspect, there are some houses that could be affordable, but that's a few. If I ruled the universe, part of that would be market rate, part of that would be a mix of affordable too. But I guess I'd like for you to, if you would, scrutinize the project and add as much affordability to the project as you can. The question I have is, where are we? There's a lot going on near Kroger on that side. Do we have any developers showing interest in that side? Do we have any developers showing interest in the main hospital site? I'm not asking for a timeline, but I'm wondering, is there interest? Have we seen any interest in it?
Yeah, great outline, Jack. And I share your concern about creating affordability at Hopewell. Anybody who's building anything right now knows it's really expensive to build. And part of making good use of land, but also of affordability, is how many units you can put on any given parcel. Now, I want to speak to condos and apartments for a second. We have seen a lot of giant boxes go up that really do not relate to the street very well. There is the possibility of dense housing that is lovely to walk next to. And we don't have to just invest in the actual four walls where somebody's going to live. And part of the planning process is about, what does a pedestrian feel like? Is there a nice place to sit in this community? Does it invite you in? Is it human scale in some way? And I'll tell you, we have a pretty complex puzzle to figure out, which is why I didn't want it to rush forward, because we would be missing a bunch of the affordability if we let it just rush forward. It's very expensive, the project that we have there. But if we had that project anywhere, frankly, it would be very expensive. And so what our team is looking at right now is, how do we make an incredibly inviting place that also has affordability and affords people the opportunity to actually live there? And that's sort of a cake and eat it too dream. But people like Keith encourage me to dream a lot, and I think we can get to a good, hopefully a great place with Hopewell. We just want to be really, really intentional. The question about developers, yes, we have some developer interest in Hopewell. Quite frankly, we're going to have to figure out what sources of funding the city has to make it palatable. So we're looking at TIF, we're looking at home dollars, we're looking at everything. Because right now in today's housing market, it's going to take help to get it to be affordable. If there aren't any other questions, I can ask any of these three awesome women if they have any other updates they want to offer. And
Well, just to let you all know that there is, and this is also largely thanks to Mayor Thompson, who kind of gave an impetus to this. There is a multi-faith winter shelter for emergency weather situations that has started up at First Christian Church and First United Methodist Church downtown. Several congregations are participating, volunteering, and people like me who have no congregation are signing up as well. And tonight will actually be the second run of this, since it's getting down to 25 degrees tonight. So that was I think a response largely pushed forward because we had that 0-degree weekend, and there were folks who didn't have a place to go. So that's a good development. Obviously, it's a Band-Aid. It's not something long-term, but at least we will have a place for people. It's geared towards people who have medical conditions, men and women.
I think we all can stay for a few minutes if you have other questions you'd rather ask us in person. And I just really want to thank you for coming out tonight. It has been one of my top priorities to make those of us at City Hall accessible to you in your neighborhoods. And I'm really grateful that you took your time to engage tonight because this is how we are going to make our community even better.